Every Wednesday, a demonstration is held in front of the former Japanese embassy in Seoul with protesters condemning Japan's wartime sexual slavery of Korean women and demanding a sincere apology from the Japanese government. And today, the 1,400th demonstration took place. Rain or shine, for 27 years, activists and surviving victims gathered at the same place. And this week's rally was even more special as it took place on the eve of Korea's National Liberation Day. Today, which also marks the International Memorial Day for Comfort Women, an euphenism used to refer to the victims of Japan's atrocity, we go in-depth on the comfort women issue with Secretary Oh Sung-hee of the Korean Council for Justice and Remembrance for the issues of military sexual slavery by Japan. But first, let's take a look at today's protest before we discuss further. For that, we turn to Arirang's Lee Min-sun.
Hundreds of people gathered at the weekly rally on Wednesday to call for Japan's sincere apology to the victims of wartime sexual slavery during World War II. This was the 1,400th weekly rally since they began 27 years ago. Despite all those efforts, the victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery, often known as comfort women, still have not received a sincere apology and appropriate compensation from the Japanese government. Only 20 of the victims are still alive, and they are all very old, mostly in their 90s. This week's rally was held under the theme of backing the victims' voices and urging the Japanese government to hear them. In addition to August 15 being the eve of Korea's National Liberation Day, it's also the International Memorial Day for Comfort Women, designated by the Korean government last year. It marks the day when the late Kim Hak-sun, one of victims, made the first testimony in front of the public in 1991. This week's protest attracted a larger number of participants, partially because of the recent trade row with Japan. But the urge for justice and the correct recognition of historical atrocities is something that went beyond borders.
Japan should take the initiative to solve this issue, and Japanese people need to know the truth. The Korean victims didn't want to become comfort women for money, but the Japanese government is hiding the truth.
It's my first time participating at the rally because it's a school vacation. I was interested in the comfort woman issue. If we don't correct the issue now, the same problem will happen again. That's why we need to do this kind of movement.
During the 90-minute rally, participants made remarks to show their support and remember the courage of the victims to speak out. And the organizers shared a letter of solidarity from a North Korean group, which was delivered on Monday. To show global solidarity, similar rallies and events were held in 13 cities in Korea and 21 cities in 9 countries around the world, including the US, UK, New Zealand, Taiwan, and Japan. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
Starting from the first bronze statue, which was installed in front of the then Japanese embassy in Seoul in 2011, some 120 comfort women statues have been built nationwide to remind people of the pain and suffering of the victims of Japan's sexual slavery. And today, on the Memorial Day for Comfort Women, a new statue was unveiled to call for Japan's apology once again. Our Won Jung-han was there.
Seoul held the unveiling ceremony for the new memorial statue on Namsan Mountain on Wednesday afternoon. The commemorative statue was unveiled on the Memorial Day for Comfort Women, just 20 meters from the former site of a Chosun shrine. At the special event, around 200 people, including Yong-soo, the youngest victim still alive, gathered to see this reminder of Japan's historical atrocities.
I am 92 this year, the perfect age to live my life and perfect to receive an apology from Abe.
These statues are the work of American sculptor Stephen White, the creator of the Comfort Woman Memorial that was erected in San Francisco 2 years ago. And all the production and shipping expenses for the statue were covered by a non-profit foundation based in California. It doesn't look like most of the Comfort Woman statues that we know. A life-size statue, each from Korea, China, and the Philippines, holding hands and staring, an iconic figure who first revealed the Japan's past wrongdoings. The 3 girls are looking at the late Kim Hak-sun, a former comfort woman who first publicly testified in 1991 about Japan operating an organized military brothel program during the war. A city official explained that the statue has some distinctive features, in that it was built low to the ground and that it is only completed when someone steps up to join hands with the three girls, hoping that the comfort woman issue won't feel as distant to visitors. The statue does not have a name, as it is left for the public to decide for themselves. And some of the visitors at the site pitched their creative ideas for the statue's name.
Her story is still ing August 14th because we think the comfort women issue is an ongoing problem that has yet to be solved. I also wanted to add August 14th to remember today.
With her Hak-sun, because Kim Hak-sun was the first comfort woman to give her testimony about Japan's wartime slavery. We wanted to let them know that we are with them by naming the statue with her Hak-sun.
For those of who would like to suggest a name for the statue, please submit an application via email by end of November. The form can be downloaded from the website of the Korean Council for Justice and Remembrance for the issues of military sexual slavery by Japan. The winning name will be selected in December. 원정환, 아리랑 뉴스.
Thursday is Korea's National Liberation Day. 74 years have passed since Korea's liberation from the Japanese colonial rule, but ties between the two Asian neighbors are plunging to new lows amid Japan's economic restrictions against Korea. Our Kim Mo-yeon now walks us through how it all began and shows us an expert's take on how things could get better.
Korea celebrates Liberation Day on Thursday, marking the 74th anniversary of August 15, 1945, when the peninsula was finally freed from Japanese colonial rule. Named Gwangbokjeol in Korean, which means the day when the light was restored, the day stands as a reminder of the resilience of the Korean people during those years of harsh treatment under Japan's occupation from 1910 to 1945. During the period, Koreans were forced to work in Japanese factories and were sent as soldiers to the front line. They were forced to adopt Japanese names, and tens of thousands of young Korean women were drafted as the so-called comfort women for Japanese soldiers. To this day, the victims of Japan's forced labor are still suffering from their traumatic experience. The remaining victims, most of them over 85 years old, still haven't received a sincere and direct apology from Japan. However, Germany, the perpetrator of the Holocaust, has addressed its wartime atrocities differently. The German government has shown remorse through both words and actions through time, earning the trust and respect of its neighbors.
Germany has been educating its youth about its past wrongdoing and consistently apologizing to its victims every year. It has been continuously working to show how it reflects on its mistakes through actions.
Germany's efforts are receiving more attention this year as Seoul-Tokyo relations have deteriorated further with Japan's imposition of trade restrictions against South Korea in July. Despite Tokyo's denial, South Korea sees this as an act of retaliation against Seoul's Supreme Court ruling last year that Japanese companies need to individually compensate victims of forced labor during World War II. Experts say the problem has become more complicated as it spread to the economic sector, adding that the row should be solved separately through a two-track policy.
It's impossible to completely resolve the historic disputes. So at this point, I think it's important to separate the past problems from economic and security cooperation. Both countries will have to work on mending their ties diplomatically.
The expert also expressed concerns that the latest trade row could mean the decades-long improvements in Korea and Japan's view of each other would be taken right back to square one. Kim Mo-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, to discuss further on this issue, Secretary Oh Sung-hee of the Korean Council for Justice and Remembrance for the issues of military sexual slavery by Japan now joins us on the line. Secretary Oh, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry, I should have been there, but the traffic was really bad and I had really busy day. So my apology for the viewers and for the broadcasting company as well.
Right, Secretary Oh, you were supposed to be here with me in the studio tonight initially, but due to your busy, it was a big day for you, a very busy schedule. You couldn't make it in the studio. We kindly ask for our viewers' understanding. Now, it must have been very busy. I'm sure you attended both the weekly Comfort Women protest and the unveiling ceremony of the new Comfort Women Memorial statue. Could you tell us what the atmosphere was like during the two events?
Yeah, we had really busy weeks. Even like weeks before today's Wednesday demonstration happened, we had lots of calls from reporters and as well as people. But unfortunately, I was not be able to attend the unveil of memorial statue today because our Wednesday demonstration and international solidarity rally was delayed, so I couldn't be there. But on behalf of the Korean Council, our General Secretary was there, and she said that Yongsu Halmoni was there, and many citizens gathered together to celebrate receiving the memorial statue from San Francisco. Today's Wednesday demonstration, we had the second largest number of people attended the rally, other than 1,000th Wednesday demonstration, which happened in 2011. But we had lots of youth joined with us, and two Halmonis were there, and our activists in my organization kind of gained energies from the youth participation, and it was quite a day and pleasant day for us.
Well, Korea marked indeed a very meaningful day today. And as we've mentioned earlier, today marks the International Memorial Day for the so-called Comfort Women. August 14th is the day the late Kim Hak-sun revealed the painful truth about Japan's wartime sexual slavery for the first time ever in history in 1991. Can you explain to us further on the significance of this day?
Well, the Korean Council and other supporting organizations in different victims' countries in Asia and Pacific, we organized Asian Solidarity Conference for the resolution of the issue of Japanese military sexual slavery since 1992. And as victims passed away and among ourselves, we started discussing how we pass on victims' legacy to future generation and current generation. That is how the Asian Solidarity Conference decided to designate August 14th as International Memorial Day for Comfort Women. And this day represents victims' lives and their sufferings and struggle, the legacy of those Comfort Women victims. So we want people to remember the history of Comfort Women, and we want people to learn from the past in order to prevent recurrence of such gross human rights violation against women and children in armed conflict. Because, such gross human rights violation against women are still happening in different armed conflict regions. That's why we decide to designate August 14th as International Memorial Day for the Comfort Women.
Well, Ms. Oh, I am afraid that is all the time we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you for having me.
And that does it for this edition of News in Depth. From all of us here at Arirang, thank you for watching.